Congratulations, Alex.
Thank you.
How fun was it to play at the center court?
Super fun. It was
Yeah.
huge and the atmosphere.
Sa Billionaire News Channel has been airing for a...
The microphone didn't just drop, it shattered. 11 carefully chosen words detonated across Philippine sports media, leaving one voice exposed, another permanently quieted, and a young tennis star overwhelmed with emotion. As a new year dawned and fireworks lit the sky, an entirely different explosion was ripping through timelines, group chats, and comment sections. Before we dive straight into the chaos, allow a brief but heartfelt pause. This community has just crossed the 2,000 subscriber mark. 2,000 people who live for tennis, who stand tall behind Filipino athletes whether they are winning or struggling, and who refuse to stay silent when unfair narratives start spreading. From the deepest corner of my heart, thank you. If you're new here, welcome. You've arrived at the perfect moment. This channel is growing sharper, louder, and far more fearless. 2,000 was only the beginning. What's coming next will be bigger, bolder, and impossible to ignore. Buckle up, because while the rest of the country was welcoming fresh starts and new hopes, a media storm was quietly turning into a full-blown national debate. This story has every ingredient of a primetime drama. A young athlete adored by a nation. A veteran media personality known for blunt opinions and zero filters. And an unexpected figure who stepped forward with a statement so short yet so powerful that it completely flipped the narrative. The central figures of this unfolding saga are Alex Eala, the standard-bearer of Philippine tennis on the global stage, Karen Davila, a broadcaster whose sharp commentary has earned both praise and resentment, and Pinky Webb, the last person anyone expected to draw a line and defend a young athlete with unwavering clarity. What exactly triggered this firestorm? Why did a rising tennis star end up in tears during what should have been a joyful holiday stretch? How did a single comment manage to silence a wave of criticism almost instantly? And how does all of this connect to Alex Eala preparing for war in Auckland against some of the toughest names in women's tennis? Across social media, one question echoed louder than all others. How could she say that? More precisely, how could a Filipino media figure direct such words toward a Filipino athlete? That question cut deep because it struck at the heart of something cultural. Filipinos don't just support their athletes, they protect them. Victories feel collective. Losses feel personal. When criticism comes from outsiders, it stings. When it comes from within, it wounds. The sense of betrayal feels heavier, sharper, and far more personal. That's exactly why this situation escalated so quickly. To understand the emotional weight of this controversy, it's important to understand the reality of being a professional athlete. The glamorous highlight reels don't show the exhaustion, the pain, or the isolation. Every match carries the expectations of an entire nation. Every training day involves hours of physical punishment and mental strain that would break most people. Add relentless travel, constant jet lag, unfamiliar cities, language barriers, recurring injuries, and the lingering doubt of whether the sacrifices will ever truly pay off. That alone is a crushing burden. Now imagine dealing with all of that while facing harsh public criticism from voices that are supposed to uplift national representatives. That's where the story shifts from debate to heartbreak. According to widespread reports and relentless online discussion, a series of sharp and allegedly humiliating remarks were directed at Alex Eala. The source, as repeatedly claimed across platforms, was Karen Davila. Karen's reputation is well established. She built her career on challenging narratives, pushing uncomfortable questions, and refusing to sugarcoat opinions. That style has earned her respect and backlash in equal measure. But this time, the sports community drew a clear boundary. There is a vast difference between critique meant to encourage growth and commentary that feels like public shaming. Many fans, former athletes, and coaches argued that this line had been crossed. Throughout the initial days of the controversy, Alexandra did what she has always done. She stayed silent. No emotional posts. No defensive statements. No interviews seeking sympathy. She chose focus over noise, restraint over reaction. That silence was widely praised, but it was also widely misunderstood. Silence doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean immunity. It often means endurance. Alexandra is barely out of her teens. She has spent most of her life chasing a dream that demanded distance from home, missed holidays, and years of sacrifice. She carried that criticism quietly, but that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. Just as the storm seemed destined to continue unchecked, an unexpected figure stepped forward. Pinky Webb entered the conversation with a calm authority that instantly changed the tone. Known for balance and professionalism, Pinky rarely dives headfirst into controversy. That's precisely why her intervention landed with such force. Her response wasn't lengthy. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't rely on insults or counterattacks. It was concise, direct, and devastatingly effective. In essence, her message was simple. If you cannot support young athletes, do not humiliate Filipinos. Those words sliced through the chaos with surgical precision. That statement resonated because it went beyond tennis. It spoke to values. It reminded people that national pride isn't selective. It's not something you wear only when athletes are winning medals. True pride shows up during setbacks, criticism, and vulnerability. It recognizes the human behind the jersey. Pinky's words felt protective, almost parental. A firm declaration that enough was enough. The reaction was immediate. Public sentiment shifted. The tone of the conversation changed. And behind the scenes, something even more powerful happened. Sources close to Alexandra revealed that Pinky Webb's defense finally broke through the emotional armor Alexandra had been wearing. After days of holding everything together through sheer discipline, she allowed herself to feel it. The tears came not from weakness, but from relief. Relief that someone saw her effort. Relief that someone spoke up. Relief that she wasn't alone. That moment reminded everyone that resilience doesn't mean being unbreakable. It means standing back up after being shaken. Instead of issuing a formal response, Alexandra did something far more genuine. She left a brief comment online. 11 words. That was all. No dramatics. No explanations. Just gratitude. Those words carried everything she couldn't say out loud. Appreciation. Validation. Connection. It was a quiet exchange between two Filipinos that said more than any press conference ever could. One voice from experience. One voice from the future. United against unnecessary cruelty. That moment shifted the entire narrative. While debate continued elsewhere, Alexandra and Pinky demonstrated composure, unity, and class. They showed that dignity doesn't require shouting. That strength can be calm. That sometimes the most powerful response is solidarity. The situation became bigger than one comment or one controversy. It became a reflection of how a nation chooses to treat its own. To understand why this resonated so deeply, it's necessary to look beyond the moment and examine the larger journey that brought Alexandra Eala here. And that story begins with a historic year that changed Philippine tennis forever. To truly grasp why the backlash against Alexandra Eala felt so personal to fans and why emotions exploded the way they did, we have to zoom out and look at the full picture. This wasn't happening in a vacuum. This criticism didn't land on an unproven athlete or someone coasting on hype. It landed on a player coming off one of the most historic years Philippine tennis has ever witnessed. A year that should have been celebrated endlessly, not dissected for flaws. The more you examine what Alexandra achieved in 2025, the more baffling the criticism becomes. It forces a simple but uncomfortable question. How do you look at a year like that and still find something to tear down? The past season will be remembered as a turning point, not just for one athlete but for an entire sporting culture. Alexandra didn't just participate. She delivered. She broke barriers that had stood untouched for decades. Her performance at the Southeast Asian Games in Thailand was nothing short of monumental. Under suffocating pressure, with every opponent targeting her as the one to beat, she captured the gold medal in women's singles. That victory ended a 26-year drought for the Philippines in that event. 26 years. An entire generation had passed without seeing a Filipina stand at the top of that podium. Alexandra didn't just win. She carried history on her shoulders and still found a way to rise. That kind of achievement demands more than technical skill. It requires mental toughness at a level most people will never experience. Imagine walking onto the court knowing a nation expects nothing less than gold. Imagine knowing that anything short of first place will be labeled disappointment. Alexandra absorbed that pressure and transformed it into fuel. And yet, she didn't stop there. Many athletes would have treated that moment as the peak of their year. She treated it as a checkpoint. She pushed forward into the highest tiers of professional tennis. On the global stage, she proved she belonged. Her run at the US Open wasn't symbolic participation. It was a statement. She competed, she battled, and she showed that her game could stand up to the intensity and speed of elite-level tennis. Rankings don't lie, and by the end of the year, Alexandra had climbed into the top 60 players in the world. That isn't just a number. That is elite territory. That places her among the best athletes on the planet in a sport played across continents. Sitting around world number 53, depending on live updates, Alexandra reached a career-high ranking. The 53rd best female tennis player on Earth. From Quezon City to the global stage. That alone should have silenced doubters. Instead, some chose to question her commitment, her choices, and her supposed shortcomings. That disconnect is exactly why Pinky Webb's words hit so hard. Her defense wasn't just about one athlete. It was about recognizing progress. It was about refusing to let negativity overshadow genuine national achievement. Philippine sports is in the middle of something special. This isn't hype. It's reality. Filipino athletes are competing at levels once considered unreachable. Gymnasts are standing on Olympic podiums. Weightlifters are rewriting record books. Boxers continue to dominate internationally. Alexandra Eala represents that same upward trajectory. Criticizing her as if she has failed ignores the broader truth. She is succeeding in ways no Filipina tennis player ever has before. At just 20 years old, she is not chasing the elite anymore. She is knocking them down. She is laying the foundation for the next generation. And that's exactly why the timing of the criticism felt so cruel. Instead of support during a holiday season that should have celebrated milestones, she faced scrutiny. But champions don't respond by retreating. They respond with action. Alexandra didn't stay home to process the noise. She didn't step away to regroup emotionally. She did what elite athletes do when the pressure rises. She moved forward. Bags packed. Rackets ready. Destination set. Auckland, New Zealand. While debates raged online and opinions flew back and forth in Manila, Alexandra landed quietly and went straight to work. Images from Auckland told a clear story. She looked locked in. Focused. Calm in a way that should worry her opponents. The WTA 250 ASB Classic awaited her, scheduled as one of the season's opening tests. This tournament isn't a casual warm-up. It's a battleground filled with players sharpening their weapons ahead of the Australian Open. For Alexandra, it was an opportunity to reset the narrative where it matters most. On the court, she didn't arrive alone. By her side was coach Joan Bosch, the architect behind much of her evolution as a professional. Their partnership has been built over years of grind. Early mornings, long sessions, tough losses, hard conversations. That bond showed clearly in practice. No posing, no distractions, just analysis, repetition, and adjustments. Alexandra worked on her serve mechanics, fine-tuned her ground strokes, and adapted to the demanding conditions of Auckland's courts. Those conditions are no joke. Fast surfaces, unpredictable winds, harsh sunlight. Players who succeed there do so because they adapt quickly. Alexandra embraced that challenge. Every drill carried intention. Every swing carried purpose. This wasn't preparation for participation. This was preparation for combat. The ASB Classic represents more than ranking points. It's a chance to send a message. A reminder that Alexandra Eala didn't climb into the top 60 by accident. That she belongs in conversations about rising threats on tour. That she isn't distracted by criticism or shaken by noise. And the road ahead is unforgiving. The field in Auckland is stacked with proven names and hungry contenders. There are no easy draws. Every round demands excellence. To go deep, Alexandra must defeat players who have lived in the top tiers of the sport. Players who thrive under pressure. Players who punish hesitation. Among the potential opponents is Alina Svitolina, a seasoned competitor with a reputation built on relentless defense and mental grit. Facing her is never just a match. It's a test of patience and endurance. Then there's Emma Navarro, a rapidly rising force whose confidence and power have made her one of the most dangerous players outside the top 10. These aren't symbolic matchups. They are measuring sticks. But beyond the names and rankings, this entire episode revealed something deeper about Alexandra's character. In an era where athletes are trained to deliver safe answers and hide vulnerability, she showed honesty. She showed emotion. She didn't pretend words don't hurt. She didn't mask her humanity. And then she did the most important thing of all. She moved forward. That brief 11-word message to Pinky Webb will be remembered not for its length, but for its grace. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't bitter. It was thankful. It reflected a player who understands that character is revealed in adversity, not comfort. In a world obsessed with clapbacks and online wars, Alexandra chose gratitude. Critics may believe their words weaken her. The truth is simpler. They sharpen her. Every doubt becomes motivation. Every insult becomes fuel. Alexandra Eala is not shrinking under pressure. She is growing through it. And as she steps onto the courts in Auckland, she carries more than rackets and gear. She carries experience, belief, and the support of a nation that now understands exactly what is at stake. What happens next won't be decided on social media. It will be decided between the lines. And that's exactly where Alexandra has always been at her best. As the new season unfolds and the noise slowly fades into the background, the lasting impact of this entire episode becomes clearer with every passing day. This was never just about a comment, a critic, or a moment of online outrage. It was a stress test of character, resilience, and national conscience. Alexandra Eala emerged from it not diminished, but defined. While opinions clashed and narratives competed for dominance, she chose the only response that truly matters in professional sports: performance. Her arrival in Auckland symbolized more than a tournament entry. It represented refusal. Refusal to be distracted. Refusal to be broken. Refusal to let external voices rewrite her story. Every step she took onto those practice courts was a statement louder than any televised debate. The message was unmistakable. She is here to work, to compete, and to keep moving forward regardless of who doubts her intentions or questions her worth. The ASB Classic is not a forgiving stage. It exposes rust, hesitation, and mental fragility immediately. That is exactly why it matters. Alexandra didn't choose comfort. She chose confrontation. She placed herself directly in the path of elite competition because that is where growth happens. This tournament serves as both a proving ground and a warning. Anyone expecting her to arrive shaken or unfocused is about to be corrected. The draw is brutal, the opponents relentless, and the margin for error razor thin. Yet those conditions mirror the path she has already walked. She has faced suffocating pressure before. She has carried expectations heavier than most players her age ever will. She has learned how to lose, how to recover, and how to return stronger. That experience cannot be taught. It can only be earned. The possible matchups ahead are not just tests of skill but tests of belief. Against seasoned veterans, she must trust her patience. Against rising power hitters, she must trust her preparation. Against adversity, she must trust herself. And that trust has been built over years of sacrifice that critics rarely acknowledge. Long before headlines and controversies, there were empty courts, early mornings, and endless repetitions. There were moments of doubt that never made it online. There were setbacks that never became trending topics. Alexandra survived those without an audience. She will survive this with one. What this entire situation ultimately revealed is the dangerous weight of words. Commentary shapes perception. Perception influences confidence. Confidence affects performance. That chain reaction is why responsibility matters, especially when speaking about young athletes still carving their place in the world. Pinky Webb understood that instinctively. Her intervention wasn't about silencing criticism. It was about setting boundaries. About reminding everyone that critique must never cross into humiliation. That message resonated because it spoke to something universal. We all perform better when supported. We all grow faster when guided rather than torn apart. The response from the public reflected a collective realization. This wasn't about choosing sides between media personalities. It was about choosing the kind of sporting culture Filipinos want to build. One that nurtures progress or one that cannibalizes it? Alexandra's reaction offered a blueprint. She didn't demand apologies. She didn't escalate the conflict. She acknowledged support and returned to her craft. That choice speaks volumes. It shows maturity beyond her years and clarity beyond the chaos. In many ways, this episode accelerated her evolution. Pressure either crushes or clarifies. For Alexandra, it clarified everything. It reaffirmed why she plays. It reinforced who stands with her. It strengthened her resolve to keep pushing forward. As she transitions from Auckland toward the larger Australian swing, including the looming intensity of Melbourne Park, this mental sharpening could become her greatest weapon. Grand Slam environments amplify everything. Every weakness is exposed. Every strength magnified. Players who arrive distracted rarely survive the opening rounds. Players who arrive centered can shock the field. Alexandra's focus now appears unshakable. She is not chasing validation. She is chasing excellence. That distinction changes everything. For fans, this moment carries its own responsibility. Support cannot be conditional. Belief cannot disappear after losses. Progress must be measured across seasons, not single matches. Alexandra is not a finished product. She is a rising force. Growth includes setbacks. Development includes struggle. That truth applies to every champion in history. None arrived fully formed. They were forged through criticism, pressure, and persistence. What separates them is how they respond. Alexandra has responded with grace, discipline, and determination. That combination is rare. It is also dangerous for opponents. As the tennis world watches her next steps, one thing is already clear. She is no longer just a promising talent. She is a contender learning how to carry expectation without letting it define her. The 11-word comment that sparked this entire conversation will be remembered not for its drama but for its symbolism. It represented gratitude over anger, unity over division, humanity over ego. In an age where outrage often outperforms empathy, that choice stood out. It reminded everyone that strength does not always shout. Sometimes it simply shows up to work. For those who continue to doubt her path or question her pace, the answer will come the same way it always has. Through matches. Through rankings. Through results. Alexandra Eala does not need to win every argument online. She only needs to keep winning respect on the court. And that respect is already growing. To those who defended her when it mattered, your voices mattered more than you realize. To those who criticized her without context, this journey is still unfolding. And to Alexandra herself, the road ahead remains challenging, unpredictable, and filled with opportunity. She carries not just talent, but perspective. Not just ambition, but purpose. As the season builds and the stakes rise, one truth stands firm. She is ready. Ready to compete. Ready to silence doubt the only way that truly lasts. Ready to keep writing a story that no controversy can erase. This is not the end of the conversation. It is the beginning of the next chapter. And wherever that chapter leads, one thing is certain. Philippine tennis is no longer whispering on the global stage. It is being heard.